Happy Mother's Day, everybody. I just won silver place in this month's Hobbytown Mini 4-Wheel Drive Tune Class races.
On your mark, get set, go! First, second, and third! You want it! Oh, one out! You want it! Where's not down? Oh, keep up! You are. Gotta get pulled. All right.
So against some stellar competition, I prevailed and won silver place. Yes, with Pango, my newly converted VZ chassis car. This was at one time a Super 2 chassis, and now with the VZ chassis, it's faster than it ever was before. It's 6 grams lighter than it was before, faster. Whoa, so cool. I changed out all of the FRP parts to carbon. Yeah, so cool. So now somehow it's lighter, it's faster. Whoa, it's so cool. So I had rearranged the weights on here so that it's a little heavier on the front, so it can take jumps a little bit better. Remember before, in the Quaker Cup, this was fast, but it wasn't as fast as the leader because this kept on jumping like this, where it would land like this. It wouldn't go like this, so there's no trajectory going on here. Now that there's a little more weight on the front, now there's more of a trajectory when it does launch off of a jump. Yes, pretty cool. So those slopes, those 3-lane slopes, devastating, very devastating for a lot of cars. And with the proper amount of weights in the front, you can traverse those and land pretty smoothly, smoother than before. So yeah, it's kind of strange. You need to have brakes, everybody. Brakes in the rear, brakes in the front. Here I've covered up my front brakes with some tape, Tamiya tape, so that I make this basically a smoother landing. So yeah, but remember, your brake settings will vary depending on the track itself and what you intend to do with the car. So is the car going to do long distance jumps? Is it going to do short distance jumps? Is it going to land a certain way, and do you want it to like bounce a little bit after it finishes jumping? You typically don't want it to bounce too much. You typically want it to like land smooth and then continue going, right? So what you really need to do is have this little item, this little tool called a slope checker. And with a slope checker, you can check if your car is going to safely traverse the slopes of a 3-lane or 4-lane track. Yes. So here I've got it set on the 5-lane setting. Let's flip it over. Now we've got the 3-lane bank slope. So this is going to easily traverse the 3-lane bank slope. And they have other ones here. They have a 20-degree bank. They have a slope. They have the 5-lane tracks here. For the 5 lanes, they have slopes, banks, different angles of the banks and slopes. Yeah, so this is a very useful tool made by 324. Yes, get one, everybody. And then you can learn more about how your car can traverse those banks and slopes. Very cool. So you want to make sure that you have the right weights on the front and the rear and the sides. Typically on some of the older style cars like Super 2, I've seen a fair number of people just forego the use of side dampers, but I feel that side dampers are every bit as important as the front and the rear dampers. So do not forget to balance your car out with side dampers. Very important. Also, the quality of your tires is very important too. If you have softer tires, they will allow you to absorb a little bit more of the impact as the car comes down. So if you have like super hard and low friction tires after you jump, it's going to bounce a little bit before it continues along its way. So you want to make sure that you find that proper balance between, like, do you want a super hard tire, or do you want a really slick tire, or do you want something in between? You have to pick the right tire for the right situation. So just because you have a certain type of wheel, like everybody thinks super hard tires are the best, right? And they are really good on flat tracks. But once you have to deal with things like slopes and jumps and banks and things like that, then you have to also consider the tire itself. Super hard is not always going to cut it in every situation. You have to study the situation, see what the situation is, find a tire that is workable with that situation. So yes, other cars I raced in Tune Class, I raced one other car, and it was not this one, no. It was this one, my newest car, Midnight, and it's got this wonderful little flappy device in the back, and it's pretty cool. Spring-loaded flappy device with these 2 sets of rollers on each side. Pretty cool, and weights in the rear. So very, very cool, and I have, as you see, a double plate up front, So this is like BMX style, basically. Yeah, pretty cool. So this is pretty good on the 5-lane track in Hobbytown. Yeah. It happens to be my black special car. So other cars that were raced at Hobbytown, my son entered his car. My youngest son entered his car, which is a very formidable racer, but it coursed out at inopportune times, so that was very unfortunate. And also, my other son raced my Eagle car, and this was also very formidable. His very first race that he won, he felt so good about winning. It was like so cool to see him like actually like looking kind of delighted that he won. So that was nice to see that. And yeah, unfortunately, this car and my other son's car, they're both basically like very similar to one another, if not exactly the same. So this style of car did not fare well on that particular track at Hobbytown this month, but this one did. This was pretty good. And truth be told, if I had put slightly more charged batteries in there, like I didn't have 1.62s in here, I had less than that. If I had put 1.62s in here, who knows? Maybe I would have won. I don't know. There's a little bit of element of luck involved in all of these races, so you can't just always say, oh yeah, I'm always going to win, blah, 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 blah. You don't know. There are some random factors that come into play. Anything can happen on mini 4-wheel drive, right? There could be like a loose piece of tape somewhere on the track. There could be like someone might have maybe a loose, I don't know, screw that's holding their damper, and they end up coursing out. And as they course out, it interferes with your car, and then you course out too because of it, and then you're out of the race basically, just because of a situation with them, right? So anything can happen with mini 4-wheel drive. It's sort of like, I liken it to roller derby, where all of these people are roller skating around this oval rink, and they're all trying to elbow each other as hard as possible to try to knock them out of the rink. So that's kind of what's happening with these cars. These cars are going around and around in a loop, an infinite loop of track. And as they bang into the walls of the track, that causes vibrations that affect the other cars in the other lanes. So there's a little bit of that going on too. So it's not just about how fast your car is, it's also not just about how stable your car is in staying on the track, it's also about dealing with vibrations, vibration control, which is dealing with the fact that other cars might be bumping into the track, causing these vibrations, causing you to potentially vibrate and course out of the track. So you have to deal with all of these things on your races. Yeah, pretty cool. Unfortunately, in open class, I didn't fare as well. As you see here, the one car, my bread and butter, it suffered damage right here. Basically, the FRP plate. Now, I don't know why you guys out there like recommend FRP plates for things, but definitely not open class. FRP plates with open class cars totally are not that good. I think I've been warned by one person that don't use FRP plates for open class cars, and I didn't listen just because I had great success with my FRP plates on my open class cars. So here, unfortunately, in practice, I suffered this irreparable damage. I couldn't fix it in time for the open class races. And yeah, I don't have an equivalent carbon plate that's like this. So yeah, this is a VZ style front plate, and I guess it's hard for me to find the equivalent carbon plate version of this. Yeah, it's not so easy to be found. So I might have to use a different carbon plate for the front on this car from this point on. It would have been much sturdier, much stronger. So yeah, I was racing against a very formidable race car, and yeah, which car did I use? I didn't use this one. Ah, here it is. Wolfie. Now this is a 4-to-1 gear ratio in this car, so it's not the fastest gear. It's got a power dash motor in there, so it should be super fast, right? Great amount of torque. And this was whizzing on around and stuff. In the first couple of races, I lost. Why? My battery power was very low. It was like 1.5, and then it went down to 1.52, and so I was like getting down to these low voltages there, and the other car basically handily sped right by me. It was like much faster than me. And then what I did was, on the third round of this, because originally it was best of 3, right, and then the other racer was convinced to do a best of 5, but I said, no, even if I win the best of 5, you've already won the best of 3, so you technically won. I concede on that point. So I said, okay, let me go change my batteries. So I changed my batteries, and lo and behold, on the third round, when we raced against each other, I won. I won quite handily. But then on the fourth trial, unfortunately, this thing ended up hanging on the edge of the track in a diagonal way. So if you can imagine the track like this, it was basically hanging off. It somehow caught itself on the edge over here. And that's like very uncharacteristic of my open class cars. They normally do not hang off like this. Now, tune class, you can basically see this happening more so on my tune class cars, but not on my open class cars. They're usually built a certain way so that they never hang off like this, but it did. So unfortunately, I lost the fourth one, and then I said, you know what, you won. You already won, so that's fine. But otherwise, this was a very formidable car on a very difficult track this month. It was what's considered a slow technical track versus a speedy track. So in box stock, which I didn't get a chance to run in, it required a car that was consistently smooth and pretty steady and kind of slow to win the races. If you saw the finals for box stock, there were not the fastest cars running in that finals. It was like amongst the slowest cars running. There were people with 5-to-1 gear ratios winning the races there on box stock. So that's what you really needed. And so I thought to myself, I'll race this 4-to-1 gear ratio car. This is going to be good enough to do well on that track, and it did fairly well. But yeah, I like the fact that I raced 2 animal racers this month at Hobbytown. Sometimes the fastest car doesn't always win. Sometimes the most technical car. So I call like certain cars speed cars and certain cars technical cars. Sometimes the most technical car wins. And that's how you have to think about all of these races, everybody. You have to think to yourself, I'm going to build some cars that are definitely made for tracks that have a lot of speed, which means you can go very fast around the track. And I also have to design cars that are based on tracks that are very technical. So you have speed cars, you have technical cars, and so the two don't mix often. So you want to make sure that you're racing the speed cars and the speed tracks and the technical cars and the technical tracks. And if you can build a car that's like sort of in between, that can deal with both speed and technical, it's typically not going to be the fastest car, and it's typically not going to be the most technical car. Sometimes it can strike that wonderful balance where it can traverse a combo speed technical track and do very well in it. So yeah, sometimes you get a car like that. In a sense, this was that kind of car because it can do speed very well. It's much faster than it was before when it had the Super 2 chassis, but it also can deal with the technical track stuff of it because it's got these wonderful rollers on it, very heavy duty rollers on the front and the rear. On the rear, you've got the solid dish rollers, always great for technical tracks. Here, you've got these solid ball bearing rollers here, very solid, very awesome for technical tracks. And then these, which are like, these are like, to me, these are a dime a dozen, these stupid 13mm rollers. I really don't like them. If I get a chance, I'm going to replace this with a 13mm roller at some point because I feel that that's actually superior to these thin dish rollers here. So even though these are solid dishes, they're not as good as these. These spin so well. These spin like so smoothly. You can hear the spinning. It's a little bit rattly, right? But once you oil it up, it's very smooth. Yeah, pretty cool. So yeah, and you want to make sure, if you can, lower height wheels with smaller tires. They're going to keep you lower to the ground so that you could hug the track better than if you had high wheels, like these here. These are higher wheels. These are standard 26mm wheels. And so these will cause your chassis to be higher up off the ground, and there's a greater chance of forcing out with wheels like this. However, wheels this big are in fact going to propel your car faster than wheels like this. So this requires a lot more effort from the motor than this type of car here because this one's got the bigger wheels. So there's like less revolutions per minute to do the same exact kind of work. So yeah, lots of little details here that you have to consider, right? So, but don't you worry about it. You put the right batteries in there, the track is a certain distance, and if you calculate things properly mentally in your head or on paper, then yeah, you could potentially win with the right calculations. So yeah, pretty cool. So my prizes for Tune class, I won a Lord Knight. Pretty cool. Yeah, this is one of the newer VZ chassis cars. It's based on the Laser series, the Laser mini four-wheel drive series of cars. Some people love it. I have a love-hate relationship with these style of cars. I mean, I've seen people like do okay in box stock with these, but I think this is a slower car in general, so the 4.2 to 1 gear ratio is just not for me. But I think for Tune class and Open class, this is where you can probably build a decent car with something like this. And it's not because of these stupid laser parts here. I think the laser parts are stupid. So here, I also won a couple of other things. I won these rollers. As you see here, these are 19mm blue plastic rollers, pretty cool. And an oil pen, yay, pretty cool. So yes, very useful parts, cool. And my prize for Open class, just competing against a very formidable racer. Right here, Robo Race, a kit. So there's an MA chassis. What's cool about this is it's got these orange rollers right here. That's pretty cool. I seldom see orange rollers on things, right? So this is pretty cool right here. So otherwise, this is a very standard kit, right? I don't think there's anything reinforced about, no, there's no reinforced chassis in this. In fact, I think the tires themselves are just okay. Are they super hard, or are they just hard, or are they slick? They look like they could be slick, actually. So they might be slick tires. It's a cool looking car, but yeah, it's an okay kit. So everybody, if you like this video, please slam the like button, subscribe to my channel. You'll see more videos just like this one. Until next time, everybody, see you, bye.